Welcome back to our Peace Through Strength podcast, brought to you by the American Security Council Foundation. I'm your host, Joy Votrobek, and back with me is our senior analyst, Lauren Sanford.
Nice to be here, Joy.
Welcome back, Larry.
Thank you.
We are going to talk today about ways the CCP has waged unrestricted warfare against the United States and with little consequence. Larry wrote about this recently in his article titled China's Contempt. You can find all of Larry's articles at www.ascf.us. We would encourage you to join and become a member of the ASCF for $100 a year. It's less than $10 a month. It also includes a paid subscription to Substack, which both Larry and Alan Dowd write on, and our bi-weekly newsletter. So without further ado, Larry, I was just going to read your CCP's actions from your article, China's Contempt. Theft of intellectual, industrial, and personal data on a scale unmatched in history. Poisoning of America through fentanyl and Wuhan virus, as you call it, or COVID-19. Contamination of social fabric with TikTok and other social platforms. Corruption of leaders in politics, Wall Street, industry, academia, media, and Hollywood. And I know we discuss a lot of these issues from time to time on podcasts. I'm sure our listeners are probably familiar with TikTok being an issue with Congress at the moment, and to see if they're going to consider this ban.
I would disagree with you. I don't think they're familiar enough with it. I think the more you know about TikTok, the more alarming its influence on our culture and our people is. It's an insidious device that drives people to follow up and dislike America and praise the Chinese communists. And it has an influence on how people vote. That, to me, is the most important thing. And the fact that it's run by the Chinese Communist Party, and they, of course, TikTok denies there's any feedback into China, and that they have the data from TikTok. And the data from TikTok is overwhelming. Your face, your recognition, voice recognition, biometrics, your buying habits, your living habits. And so they have are developing a vast database of Americans, including genetics. And the Chinese Communist Party is spending a lot of time and money on genetic research.
But I do agree with you that our listeners may not be familiar with what you just were discussing as far as the algorithms and everything going on. I was talking more to, they might be familiar with the possible ban of TikTok that Congress is considering. So we'll see how that goes.
To me, the simplest solution is it should be banned. Don't sell it, just ban it, because the Chinese aren't going to give up their technology. Just say, we'll let you run in America if you let us operate in China. And if they don't let us operate in China, why should we let them operate in America?
Right.
It's very simple. Reciprocity.
And I'm going to get to that in our Peace Through Strength ending here. I know people have heard of intellectual theft by the CCP as well, and most likely the fentanyl issue.
Yes.
But I wanted to quote in one of your summaries here a highlight specifically that stood out to me that was interesting is that we don't talk a lot about is Wall Street is getting richer by financing China and Main Street is getting poor. Terrorism is on the rise and democracy is on the decline. Chinese spy balloons intrude on American airspace. Could you, Larry, speak more to how Wall Street is getting rich from doing business with China while the average American is getting poor?
Wall Street has made a Faustian bargain. Faust was a German book where a man made a deal with the devil for prosperity, and the devil said, you will pay me back eventually one of these days. And sure enough, years later, he had to pay him back, and it was an ugly ending. And we've been developing Chinese industries. And when you say there's civilian industries versus military industries, in China, there's a fusion. The difference between civilian and military, it is whatever the Chinese Communist Party says it is. And the Wall Street has been financing, a good example is the biggest EV manufacturer in the world today is no longer Tesla. It's BYD or BYN, and it was financed by Warren Buffett's crowd when it got off the ground.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and so just the money and the billions of dollars, BlackRock, Blackstone, Buffett's crowd, they make deals in China, they finance industries, they get a high rate of return, but it's starting to seep out a little bit that some capitalists, when they're trying to get their money out, can't get the money out. The Chinese are starting to crack down on what you can get out. And also, foreign executives in China are in danger of not being able to leave the country.
I've heard that, yes.
Because of it. So there's no, the only law in China is what the Communist Party says it is. So there's no, Hong Kong's a perfect example where they signed a deal and they said, well, there's no deal. So there's a huge risk involved. For the short term, they're making a lot of money in interest and dividends and growth of the stock market and so forth. But long term, Faust is going to be called. They're going to end up hurting.
On that note, my other question is, do you think businesses will start to decouple from China? Or
Yes.
is there still too much money to be made?
Well, there's always going to be money to be made, and there's always going to be people chasing the money. But yeah, I think there was gradual decoupling going on. So I think everybody's starting to wake up. Europe is starting to get a little scared, and we said, and we are, in the first of the article, Chinese hold us in contempt. In some ways, we deserve it. A billion packages a year are flown into the United States under what is called the de minimis rules. And de minimis rules was developed years ago for tourists. If they came back with a certain amount of goods, they weren't going to get hassled taxes filling in these forms. Well, now the de minimis thing is $700. So the Chinese are sending Shein and Temu, all these fashion things made with Uyghur cotton, which is probably slave labor, into the United States and bankrupting local businesses because they can bring a billion packages a year into America, no duty, no inspections, no nothing. It's just pure, and who knows what else is coming in besides clothes, drugs, who else? And so...
Or supplies to make the fentanyl, as we discussed.
Precisely. So there's another example where the Chinese have just taken advantage of our openness. And I've always been a free trader, but I would tell you that I believe in free trade among free people, and that's not what we have with us in China.
I heard that on the radio the other day. They were talking about the de minimis Act. And I think what they were saying, did it start at a lot lower amount, something like $200? Now it's been
$700.
Increased to $700.
And 5 years ago, there were maybe 100 million coming in. Everyone thought that was outrageous. Last year, 1 billion packages came in. So you divide that by 365 days a year. That's like 3 million or 3 million a day are coming in.
So I know we're jumping ahead a little bit to piece through Strange Solutions, but do you think we should consider now going back to a smaller amount?
I mean, dollar-wise.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
yes.
And I would add one sentence. It has to be hand-carried by an individual. But then businesses will scream because I have friends that import stuff from China, and if you raise that, they're going to scream. So be it, develop sources elsewhere. Was it Lenin or Stalin, one of those guys said, the capitalists will sell us the rope that we're going to hang them with. And capitalism is capitalism. They can do it. It's up to our government leaders to establish rules to protect America.
Yeah.
And if it presents problems for China, like Trump is talking about having a huge tax on Chinese electric vehicles coming in, they're going to get around the problem of manufacturing in China. They're building a huge plant in Mexico, and they're going to come in under the North American Trade Agreement. You got to say, no, that ain't going to work, guys. I wouldn't let them in. And of course, the EV industry, the whole clean energy, is controlled by China, and there's another example where we're being suckered into batteries and lithiums and all that stuff, and we have the greatest manufacturing facilities in the world as far as oil and internal combustion engines. And we're just giving them up for EV technologies, which are Chinese.
And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get away from that anytime soon because we got the whole green energy deal here.
But if the government took away the subsidies, we're running billion-dollar deficits, trillion-dollar deficits. If we stop subsidizing the green energy, I believe in the sun, I believe in the wind, but as an add-on, the base source for energy has to be nuclear, natural gas, and coal, and keep it going. Because if the lights go out and the sun goes down and the wind don't blow, what do you do now? So
You need backup.
yeah.
Well, on a final note here, the Chinese spy balloon incident, I was wondering this myself as I'm thinking, you're looking at your notes here, and has there been any consequences to the Chinese flying a spy balloon over the United States? Have we addressed this at all, to your knowledge?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah.
And originally, the Biden administration said it was just a weather observation. There's no technology. Now you see references. Oh, there was some stuff in there, blah blah blah. But I haven't seen anything on that.
And I think it showed up in other countries as
Yeah,
well. Well, then getting to your Peace Through Strength solutions, and you speak of reciprocity. What can the American people do?
Well, I personally try to avoid anything made in China. It's impossible to completely avoid purchasing of Chinese-made products.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, I try to avoid buying Chinese stuff. That's what you can do as an individual. And as an individual, and as you know, Joy, one of my favorite expressions is it's better to light one candle than curse the darkness. I say whenever you have a conversation with someone and it comes up to the subject of China, you got to say, they have declared war on us. Mm-hmm. It's not a shooting war yet, but they have declared war on us, and they're attacking us from an economic viewpoint, a military viewpoint, a psychological viewpoint, and cultural viewpoint. And fentanyl, TikTok are just the two best examples where they're just poisoning our culture.
Yes, so I was going to say, I guess we could also encourage you to write to your congressman.
Yes.
Whether you agree with TikTok or you definitely fentanyl is an issue, so
Yes.
that's certainly something that should be brought up.
And don't blame Mexico. Mexico's to blame, but China controls the whole
China's
thing. The
sending
inflow, the manufacture, the distribution. It's China's crime.
And maybe we could approach the De Minimis Act as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Larry. Appreciate.
Thanks, Joy. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And to our listeners, you can read all of Larry's articles at www.ascf.us. You can also comment on YouTube, Rumble. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, please consider becoming a member of ASCF at $100 per year. Join us again next time as we bring you Peace Through Strength podcast.